to start with today's Daf Yomi Boker Tov. So we're going to start Kiddushin Daf class, Kiddushin 8. We're going to start around 17 or 18 lines from the top with the position statement of the Gemara, Amar Rav Yosef, Minamino. Rav Yosef says, from where do I know this? What we were saying is that there was a dispute between Rabbah and Rava, and there were two versions in the Gemara to the dispute. And they discussed the case on the bottom of 7b, where there was a man who betrothed a woman with a silk garment, which she ride. And Rabbah said, you don't need to have evaluated first. And Rav Yosef says, no, you need to have evaluated it first to make sure it was really worth what the man said it was. So the Gemara has two versions of what they're possibly arguing about. And according to the first version, they're arguing about a case where he said it was worth 50 coins, and it was worth 50 coins. Rav Yossi says you would still need to have evaluated first under those circumstances to make sure she knew what she was getting, to make sure she understood the matter clearly. So our Gemara now, according to Tosos, Rav Yosef is commenting that Rav Yosef is proving the first version of what he said. Rav Yosef, Rav Yosef says, from where do I know this idea that even though it is that value, he still needs to prove it or have it evaluated, established beforehand, so that she's not confused about the matter. Says, I'll prove it to you from the case of the pigeon ben, the redemption of the firstborn, because we have a principle. The Tanya, the Brisa says, "Egol zel pigeon bini." If the man says, "This calf will be for the redemption of my son," then he has said nothing, because we don't know that it's silver coins. So even if he gave it to the coin, it's not sufficient. But if he says, but if he says that this coin is worth 5 silver coins, this calf is worth 5 silver coins for the redemption of my son, or Talis, then we're going to say, or if he says Talis or if he says this Talis is 5 silver coins, is worth 5 silver coins for the redemption of my son, then it's going to be Beno Padoi. Then it's going to be a valid redemption. So the Gemara asked the question, Hi Pidyon, Hechidami, how do we have a redemption of the firstborn son under these circumstances? What's the scenario? If you are going to say that it's not worth 5 silver coins, Kol Kamini, so then why would it ever possibly work? Even if he says it's 5 coins, why would it work? It's not worth 5 silver coins. So it must be Elulav Alpagav Shavi. So in the first case, why does it not work? Even though it's worth 5 silver coins, we're going to say it still doesn't work. Kivan Delo Kaitzi, because he didn't establish that amount. And so therefore, since it wasn't established and set beforehand, we're going to say it doesn't work. And so too in this case also, since the since the garment was not established as 50 coins in the presence of the woman, it wasn't evaluated. Therefore, Rav Yosef says it wouldn't work. She needs to know exactly that it's worth that. Gemara says, no, that's not the case of the redemption of firstborn. It really wasn't worth 5 silver coins. If that's the case, then how does it work where he establishes it? Why does it work in the second case? So the Gemara says, it's going to Kibel Kohen Alayu. The Kohen accepted upon himself, even though it wasn't worth 5 silver coins, the Kohen accepted upon himself to say that it's the value of 5 silver coins, even though it wasn't. And the Gemara gives an example. That Rav Kahana accepted a handkerchief or a scarf for the purpose of the redemption of the son. And he said, he said, to me, it's worth 5 selah. It's worth 5 coins. The Tosfos asked the question, but Rav Kahana, we know from the Gemara himself, was himself not a coin. So how could he have accepted the money for the firstborn? Tosfos says, well, maybe it was a different Rav Kahana, and this one was a coin. Because the second answer, which is a shocking answer, that he accepted on behalf of his wife, who was the daughter of a coin, which is very, very unusual answer. And Pnei Yeshua says, "Lo matzati chaver." I didn't find anybody else who says this position. So Amar Ravashi. So then the Gemara says, Amar Ravashi. When do we say that if the Kohen accepts upon himself this scarf, it's worth silver coins, when 5 silver coins, and its value that we only say that El Kigon Rav Kahana, the Gavin Rabba. We only say that except in the circumstance of Rav Kahana, because he was a great man. Sudra Raisha, he always needed a cloak on his head of a Kuli Amalo, but the rest of the world, there's no way a scarf is going to be worth 5 silver coins. Here the Marbar Ravashi, Zabin Sudra Me'ime the Rabba Mekubi. Now Ravashi one time bought a scarf from the mother of Rabba of Kubi. Shavi Asar B'Tleiser. He bought it. Was really worth 10. He bought it for 13. We see that subjectively sometimes it can be worth more. We also see from here, Aham Pasant, that if there is a Gavra Rabba, that if there is a great man, he needs to cover his head, and so that's the concept here. So Amar Rebbe Lazar says we're on the bottom of Ches Amud Aleph. Zakta Rebbe Lazar, his God should even mana. He says, become betrothed to me with a mana. What's a mana? 100 coins. Vinasa a dinar, and he gave her a dinar. What's a dinar? 1 coin. So he said, become betrothed to me with 100 coins, and he gave her 1 coin. Harezim Mekudesh. So Rebbe Lazar says, at that moment that he gives her the 1 coin, she's betrothed. And he just owes her 99 dinarim. He's going to have to pay that to her, pay it out. But right now he's betrothed to her. My time. And what's the reasoning of Rebbe Lazar? Mana, since he said to her he's going to give her a mana, v'yavla dinar, but he gave her 1 dinar. Then we're going to say, command Amar Manastam. It's like he said to her, be married to me on the condition that I eventually fulfill all these conditions. And this we had this in Gittin also. Whoever says to do something on the condition, it's basically saying like do it like right now, and so therefore she's betrothed right now, and he owes her the 99. So the Gemara challenges Rebbe Lazar's position. Meisvei is kachli b'mana, but we have a brayz that says he says become betrothed to me with this 100 coins. And then he's counting them out. And one of them, either the husband or the future husband or the future wife, changes their mind. They get to coin number 35. He's saying 1, 2, 3, and he says, "Nah, I changed my mind." Or she says, "Nah, I changed my mind." I feel but dinar achron or just the other. They can change their mind up to the last coin. So we see it's not like Rebbe Lazar that even up until the last coin you're not married. So why does Rebbe Lazar say you're married right away? So the Gemara says, what's the distinction between the 2 cases? The distinction is the Amr b'mana zu. He says, become betrothed to me with this mana, meaning to say there, he's not married until you give the entire mana. The Gemara says, it can't be that that's all referring to a case of mana zu. How about the seifa b'mana zu? From the fact that the last clause is with this coin. Minimtza, how many the seifa b'mana zu? From the fact that the last case of the Bryce is with mana zu. It must be that the Reisha is a case of monastam, because that the first clause is talking about a case where he says just they'll give you a mana. So we can't say that the first case is talking about a mana zu, and therefore it's a contradiction to Rebbe Elazar. So the Gemara says, and what's the case of the Seifa? The Katani Seifa, the second clause says, Amrullah is kachli b'mana. So he says, become betrothed to me with this money, with this mana. And then v'nimtza mana chaser dinar. And then under those circumstances, he has a mana missing, he's missing 1 dinar, dinar shal nachoshes, or it's a copper dinar, which is no good. We'll see why in a few moments. Eina mekudeshes. The Sefer says, if he says, become betrothed to me with this mana, it's not a valid betrothal if it's missing. But dinar ra, but if it was a bad dinar, harezim mekudeshes v'yachud. We're on the bottom of Chesam at Aleph. So there, under those circumstances, dinar ra, bad dinar will be mekudeshes, but he has to change it out. So we see from here that the seifa is manazu, so therefore the reisha must be manastam, and in the reisha we see it could always go back. So there's the contradiction to Rebbe Lazar. So the Gemara says no. Well, reisha is seifa damar manazu. Both the first clause and the last clause is the case of manazu. Pirushi coming farish, and the seifa is explaining the reisha, meaning to say ratzeh echamen lachzor afilu. But dinar achron or shusbiyadu. If one of them wants to go back and change it, even at the very, very, very end, he's allowed to. It's like a case where he says to her, become betrothed to me with this mana. And indeed, this is logical. Therefore the Seifa is explaining that the case of the Reish is b'manazu, so it doesn't contradict Rebbe Lazar, and this is indeed the logical way to read it. Hold on 1 second. This is indeed logical. The Isal Kadaita Reisha b'mana stam. If you want to say that the Reisha, the first case of that price, is a case where it's just a regular mana, not a mana, not the specific mana. Hashta b'mana stam. Well, have a kedusha in a case of mana stam, where he says with this money and he doesn't give her anything, then it's not a kedusha. B'mana zumi baye. For sure, in a case where he says I'm going to be betrothed to you with this mana, and then he doesn't give her everything, for sure it's not a valid, but do we even need to say it's not a valid betrothal? So the Gemara says, no, imushimha area. That wouldn't be a proof. Why? Tana seifa guye reisha. No, sometimes we have a brisa. We saw this earlier in the pasuk. We saw this a couple of days ago. Sometimes the pasuk comes to reveal the other part of the pasuk. So here we're learning in a brisa. Tana seifa guye reisha. We need the latter clause to tell us what the former clause is talking about. Shalot Tomar, we don't want to say Reisha b'manazu, that we don't want to assume that the first case is talking about a case of manazu, but b'manastam have a kedushin. In a case of manastam, it is indeed kedushin. So therefore, Tana seifa b'manazu. So therefore, we're being told that the latter clause is manazu to teach us Michal the Reisha b'manastam, to tell us that the first case is a manastam, and still it's not a kedushin. I feel we'll have a kedushin. So that's the Gemara saying that this is so therefore, at this point, even though Rebbe Lazar is trying to say that the Reisha is talking about a case of Manazu, the Gemara says not necessarily the case that we have to read the Brisa that way, and we can read it as a case of Manastam, in which case it contradicts Rebbe Lazar. Rav Ashi gives a different explanation. Rav Ashi Amar, it says that this Brisa doesn't contradict Rebbe Lazar, because even though Rebbe Lazar says that if you say I'm going to become betrothed to me with 100 and he gives her 1, Rebbe Lazar says that he owes her the 99, and our Brisa says no, he could change his mind. So the Brisa seems to contradict it. Rav Ashi says our Brisa is different because it's the case of Mona v'Hoech and Shani. Since he's counting it out, that's different. The Daita Koi, since he's counting it out, she says I need to receive everything. And so therefore, until she receives everything, it's not a valid betrothal. So the Gemara says, hi, dinar shel nachoshes, where in the latter case, it says if he gave a dinar nachoshes, she's not betrothed. What is this? What's a copper dinar? What do you mean? If she saw it, she received it, she accepted it, so she clearly doesn't mind it. Gemara says, no, well, he gave it to her at night. And so she didn't know what she was getting. The witnesses saw it, but she didn't see it. Or it was mixed up amongst the other coins. And what's the bad coin? If you can't use it, then why wouldn't we just say that's a dinar shel mechoshes? So Amar Papa could go in the nafik. Yeah, you could use it, but nobody wants it. You could use it under duress in the marketplace. Amar Rav Nachman. If he says, become betrothed to me with a mana, and he says, become betrothed to me with this $100, and he doesn't have the $100 on him, so he gives her, let's say, his watch. That's a mashkon, a collateral, ain't a makudeshes. So Rava says in the name of Nachman that does not work. She's not betrothed. Why? Mana is a very famous phrase. Mana in time, mashke. He hasn't given her the money, and he hasn't given her the mashkon. The mashkon is the collateral. Why not? Rashi says because he's not giving her the mashkon as a gift. The mashkon is just a placeholder. So he's giving her, in essence, nothing. That's the way Rashi seems to explain it. Other Rishonim explain that you can't have a transaction that's one-sided. There needs to be something that's given on each parties. So in this case, she hasn't given anything because he's only given the mashkon here, and the mashkon is a placeholder for later. So therefore, so Rava says in Rav Nachman, the monies he hasn't given her, and he also hasn't given her the mashkon. The mashkon is just a reminder that he owes her the money. So Esvei Rava Rav Nachman. So, but didn't we just say we have a brisa which says kitchav mashkon mekudeshes? We have another brisa that says that you can give a betrothal with a mashkon. Yeah, Gemara says, yeah, but that's a different type of mashkon. Hasam b'mashkon da'achirim. There, you're giving her a mashkon that you got from somebody else to hold. Well, then that's in your possession. Because the creditor in certain ways has acquired the mashkon. As it states, where it says that if you give somebody a mashkon and it's your garment or your utensil, the person is supposed to take it out to you so you can use it. That's what it says in the pasuk. And if the person hasn't acquired it, then how is it a charity? And so therefore, this teaches us that there are certain proprietary rights that the creditor has acquired over the mashkon. So the children of Rav Huna bar Abin, they bought a slave woman with a few coins. But they didn't have those coins; they weren't liquid. So Osve Nasko, when they gave they gave for her a collateral of a silver block, a block of silver. With Sophie Yakar Amta, in the end, this maidservant, her value went up. And so therefore the guy who they bought her from wants to raise the price. So also coming to Rabbi Ami, they came to Rabbi Ami, Amaru Priti Ein Kan Naskin Kan. It's the same thing. You didn't give them the money and you didn't give the collateral to them as a gift, as an exchange. You were just giving it to hold it. So you've done nothing. So what's the point of the collateral? No point there in that case. Let's say he says, become betrothed to me with $100. The Tawasa was a Rakolian. She takes it and she throws it into the sea. Oh, or she throws it into the fire. Oh, Kol Davar Avid, or she destroys it. Eina Mekudeshes. We're going to say she's not betrothed under those circumstances. Why not? But Hashadatino, because she clearly doesn't intend to accept it. Hashadatino Kame, but if she takes it and she throws it down in front of him, have a Kiddushin. Then it would be a valid betrothal. So the Gemara says, but Gemara says why? So when she throws it down in front of him, it's as though she's saying, but why is it good if she throws it down in front of him? Isn't it like she's saying to him, I don't want it? So Gemara says, no, we're not. It's not only this, even this. Not only in a situation where she threw it down in front of him would we say that it is not a betrothal, but just the opposite. If she threw it into the sea or the fire, I might have thought it was a Kiddushin, meaning to say, if she throws it down in front of him, I know it's not a Kiddushin, but if she throws it into the sea or destroys it, I might have thought it is a Kiddushin. So well, now she owes the money, she's actually betrothing herself. The reason why she's doing this is she might have thought, well, I want to check him out to see if he's a person who gets angry or not. So therefore we're going to say, and in this case, she's not betrothed. She's saying she's not betrothed. So the Gemara says, so now we have the next case. Tarabanan, it's actually b'mana. Let's say he says, become betrothed to me with for $100. And she says, name wa Abba wa Avicha. Give it to father, my father or your father, Eina Mekudeshes. Not a valid betrothal. Let's say Amanat Sheikabu Mli. She says, on the condition that you Amanas Sheikabu Mli. Let's say she says, on the condition that my father or your father accepted on my behalf, Mekudeshes. Meaning to say, if the guy gives her money and she says, "Oh, give it to father," well, we're going to say that's so good. But if she says, "I'll be married to you on the condition you give it to father," that is okay. So now the Gemara says, why does it have to say Abba in the first clause? Tana Abba in the first clause says father in the first clause, meaning to say, to show us the extremity of that position. Even if she says, oh, give it to father, it's still no good. Tana Vicha, she says the case of, on the condition we give it to your father in the Seifa, to show us the extremity of the concluding clause. Meaning to say, even on the condition to your father, it's still valid. But let's say it's God Shligamana. Let's say she says, become betrothed to me for 100. And she says, to name Ploni, give it to this guy. Aina Mekudeshes. It's not a valid betrothal because she's just like saying, get rid of it, I don't want it. But on the condition that this guy will accept it from me, Mekudeshes. That is valid. And Tzricha, we need this case where she says, give it to somebody else, and also the case of the father. Yes, we know if we just have the case of fathers, we would say, Hasim, there we're going to say it's that law. The Kiyama Menashe Kabam Leid, because there it says on the condition that my father, your father accept you have a Kiddushin, the Samcha Daita. There we would say, oh, she's relying upon them. Savra Abdul Chukusai. There it's logical to say she made them her agents. But this other guy, maybe it's not logical to say she's making them their agent, then she's really rejecting the betrothal. Yes, meaning Ploni, and if we just have the case of Ploni, this other person, I would say, Hachu the Kiyama to name a pony will have a Kiddushin. There, in that case, he says, oh, give it to this guy. There, it's not a Kiddushin. Because she's not, it's not her father, so she's not so close to him to say, give it to him as a gift. Maybe she says, oh, give it to father. Maybe she's giving to them as a gift. So therefore, we need a salacha to be taught in both cases. Tana Rabbana, next case, it's God. Actually, the money, she says, become betrothed to me with 100. And she says, to name Agabe Stella, give it on a rock, in a Mekudeshes. He says, become betrothed to me with the money. She says, stick it on the rock. She's not betrothed. But if it was her rock, it was Mekudeshes. Baira, Bibi, Stella, Shal Shneima. Let's say they both own the rock. Mercy's taken. We read this question unresolved. Is God actually Bekikar? Let's say he says, become betrothed to me with a loaf of bread. Says Tanel Kav, give it to the dog, ain't a Mekudeshes. Not betrothed. Vimaya Kelav Shalah, but if it was her dog, we're going to say she's betrothed, Mekudeshes. By Rav Mari, Kelav Ratzachara. Now, let's say there's a dog running after her, and the guy says, will you become betrothed to me? And she says, give it to the dog. What do we say? Is that a valid betrothal? But who another kamat for nafshamine? So do we say because of the benefit she gets by giving the loaf of bread to the dog, she's betrothing herself? Or maybe she said to him, no, you have an obligation to save me anyway. You're obligated to save me. Versus take. We leave that question unresolved. What's the obligation to save her? There's an obligation. You're not allowed to stand by the blood of your neighbor. If you see your friend is being pursued by a dog, you're obligated to step in and try to save. But what about the next case? It's actually Bekikar. She says, become betrothed to me with a loaf of bread. And she says, Tanei give it to the poor man. Ain't a Mekudesh. It's not a valid betrothal. I feel even if it's a poor man who relies upon her, who she typically is supporting, she's still not betrothed. Why? My time, she's saying to him, just like I have to support him, so do you. Who Gavra, there was a man, Karmazabin, Chomre, Pitichaisa. The guy was selling like, Rashi says he was selling like tin buttons, or on top of Testament Aleph. Also, so a woman came to him, Amrulay, and she says to him, give me like a string of buttons. He says, if I give it to you, will you become betrothed to me? She says to him, give it. She says a double expression. So the Gemara says, that means she's saying, she's not accepting it. She's just saying, give it to me already. I had enough of your like narish guy. This man who's drinking wine in the store. Also, he is a saw. The woman came, she says, give me a cup of wine. He says, if I give it to you, become married to me. She says, give it to me already. Well, she said nothing. That's not acceptance of betrothal. there was a man who was throwing dates midikla from the palm tree. Yes, so the woman came along. He's throwing down a couple of dates. He said to her, will you become betrothed to me? If I do that, send it already, send it. So it's not a betrothal. So when I ask the question, let's say she doesn't use the double expression, she just uses one, have, give it, or ask it, or let me drink it, or shadi, or send it, ma'am. So Ravina Mekudeshes. Ravina says under those circumstances, it is a valid betrothal. Rav Sama Barakta Amar Taga de Malka. He's basically swearing like by the crown of the king. Aina Mekudeshes. Under those circumstances, she's not a valid betrothal. The halacha is that if she says, "Oh, just give it," even one expression, not betrothed. Now we go back to the very beginning of our discussion. Sharai lo tzricha shuma, like Rava, not like Rabbi Yosef, that if you give her a silk garment, you don't need to have evaluated first. So, like we learn, like Rava, the halacha is like Rava, and also we're going to say. Hold on 1 second. And then the third case is Ve'ochasa Rebbe Lazar. And the law is like Rebbe Lazar. What do we say that Paskin like Rebbe Lazar? We said if he become betrothed to me in Maneh and he gave her a dinar, then she's betrothed on the condition that he gives everything. And Ve'ochas later on, Ve'ochasa Karava Amaram Nachman. And the law is like Rava in the name of Rav Nachman, who said that if he gives her the mashkin because he doesn't have the money, mana in kan, mashkin in kan. There's no money there, and there's no mashkin, and so therefore, no, that is the halacha. So, okay, so we'll stop here. Beautiful, beautiful daf, beautiful daf. All right, yashikoch to everybody. Yashikoch to everybody. Had a question?
No, yashikoch.
Okay, shkoya.